So when you talk about speaking the truth in love,
hmm
do you believe most people really want to be told the truth?
So whether you want to hear it or not, it needs to be said. And the spouses or couples need to be able to say that to each other.
Are you that desperate to get married that you would really bite your tongue, bite your lip?
Because you can't change the other person, right? We've got to focus on what can I do and
Real communication isn't about saying more. It's about saying what matters in a way that connects. You're listening to Marriage with Jim and Teresa, your weekly guide to better connection, deeper trust, and lasting love. Wherever you are in your relationship, single, dating, engaged, married, happily or unhappily, you've come to the right place. I'm your host, Jim, and this is my co-host, my wife of the last 40 years, the mother of our 4 children, Teresa, the therapist. Hey, Teresa.
Hey, Jim. So good to be here today. Today, we're going to be talking about communication. So whether you are talking to your spouse, a child, a colleague, or even trying to have clear communication with yourself, that dialogue, communication is the bridge. But here's the truth. Not all communication connects. So today we are going to explore what real communication looks like, how it gets lost in translation sometimes, and how to build the skill set that strengthens, not strain your relationship.
Hey, Teresa.
Uh-huh.
You know the biggest problem with communication?
No, tell me about it.
It's the illusion that it actually took place.
Oh, really?
You know who said that?
No.
Well, I just said it. But you know who originally said it? George Bernard Shaw.
Okay, I know him.
And that's what we're going to talk about.
Okay, real communication.
And how it goes so horribly wrong.
Sometimes it does. So some real communication is, let's just talk about some things that it is, some foundational truths, I guess, about real communication. It is the intentional exchange of thoughts, feelings, and needs that fosters understanding. So build trust, and it invites connection. Not always that it doesn't happen, but it does invite connection.
So here's what happened in Genesis 3 when communication went horribly wrong. Adam and Eve were walking in the garden, the first family, the original first family.
Mm-hmm.
They're walking in the garden, and look at what happened. Satan, the great deceiver, came up and said to Eve, hey, did God really say? Do you see how he communicated or miscommunicated?
Mm-hmm.
Did God really say, this is Genesis chapter 3, that you shouldn't eat of any of these trees? And so then Eve responds, and she adds stuff on. No, God didn't say that. He said you could eat of all the trees except this one, which you can't eat of it or even touch it, which that was added on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when communication was originally broken.
Yes.
So now the only way we can fix it, and we talk about the great communicator, Jesus being the great communicator,
Mm-hmm.
the only way we can fix what got broken in the garden is by following the example of Jesus, the great communicator. So today, hopefully, we're going to share some skills that our audience can learn from you in your role as a professional therapist in the counseling room.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to bring in the teaching from the master communicator, Jesus.
Sounds great. And because of the fall, we do have to be intentional in our communication.
Okay. Gotcha.
So so real communication isn't just talking, right? It's not just texting. It's not just being in the same room saying we're fine, because I do hear that sometimes. Did you spend some time together? Or did you communicate? Well, we were in the same room, but you were on your iPads and you were on the phone, so you really weren't being intentional. So it's also about clarity and caring working together, to do this.
Hey, so speaking of caring, you know what that reminds me of?
What?
It reminds me of a show we did on communication 11 years ago.
Okay.
So I went back and I pulled some of those notes out so we could talk about it, because I think that it's still relevant today.
Okay.
So you talked about caring.
Mm-hmm.
So here are like what I'm going to call 5 standards of successful communication.
Okay.
And tell me if you want to talk about them all at the same time, or if you want to weave them into kind of the things that you want to talk about.
All right.
But when you say it caring, true communication kind of begins with developing or demonstrating that there's genuine concern there.
Mhm.
You can't effectively talk to your spouse if they don't believe you care.
Absolutely.
So talk about that.
Well, I was, just it gives you a place when you're communicating or when you do care. Communication is much easier. It gives you a place, a comfort to be open with the other person. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
So, it's very important that you guys, that a couple would care for each other in a deep sense so that can take place. Otherwise, it doesn't take place. You're on the surface with your communication. You're afraid to be truly real in your communication. So real communication reflects the heart of God too.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So
I do.
when I hear a couple, I can help them get to that place to really clear out, and so sometimes that's what needs to happen. You need to clear out any kind of issue in the relationship so that communication can become clear. You can speak the truth in love. That's what God says. If we're going to reflect Him, is to speak the truth in love. That's like listening with grace. So when I say that, I'm thinking listening with grace, listening with an open ear to say, I want to hear what you have to say because you're important to me.
So when you talk about speaking the truth in love,
Mm-hmm.
do you believe most people really want to be told the truth?
Well, I maybe sometimes you don't, but you really do have to get to that place because, self-awareness is most important. If you're not self-aware, you can't grow. So whether you want to hear it or not, it needs to be said. And the spouses or couples need to be able to say that to each other, need to find that comfortable place to be able to tell whatever it is, to tell it and speak it in love. But the truth needs to be told, and whether we like it or not, we need to receive it.
So, I used to do a men's group. I haven't done a men's group in a while, but when I did a men's group, one of the things the men would say is, hey, Jim, our wives don't want to be told the truth. Or even if they say they want to be told the truth, if I'm totally honest with them, their reaction is so painful that it teaches me not to speak the truth. What do you say about that? Because we're talking about speaking the truth.
Well, I'm going to go back to my word intentional. With whether they like it or not, you have to do it. Especially if you want your relationship to have that comfortability. Is that a word? Comfortability? Well,
let's make it a word.
Okay, we'll make it a word. You need to have that in your relationship so that you can share all of those beautiful things that you want to share. And sometimes they're not so beautiful.
I am comfortable with being truthful, even if it's painful. And I'm comfortable with people being truthful with me, even if it's painful. But there were times early in our marriage when there were things that I wanted to communicate to you. And maybe I will say that my approach is to be brutally honest.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes my delivery, what I was saying was true, but maybe my delivery wasn't the best. So why is that important? How will you teach couples or talk to couples about that?
Anytime a person feels attacked, their defenses come up. And so if you're going to be brutal or harsh,
I didn't say brutal. I said brutally honest.
It doesn't matter if it's not. It doesn't matter. A person won't hear your brutally honest statement if you don't say it in a kind way. Let me say, a person wants to be respected. It doesn't matter who they are. Even a little kid, they want to be respected, even though they don't even know it. So I'm just saying, you got to be able to speak the truth in a loving manner so that they can receive it. If you don't do it that way, they don't receive it. So you've got to practice on that delivery. Once again, I'll go back to anytime you're dealing with another person, you've got to be intentional in your communication.
Okay. So we talked about caring. We talked about being truthful. That's interesting. Kind of our different, no, I won't say different takes, but kind of I would say the differences in men and women and kind of how that plays out in a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard men say often that my wife asked me this, but I didn't want to tell her this because, and I hate when men say this too, by the way, because I didn't want to get in trouble. But I think
No,
men
I
water
know it.
down.
I'm thinking you're a grown man.
Exactly.
You don't. What?
I'm
Get
not
in
afraid to
trouble.
get in trouble with you.
Exactly. I'm
So,
like, walk into that.
okay, so there are a lot of things that I hear men say that irritates me, uh, in an effort to feign deferring to their wife. They say things like, I don't want to get in trouble, or here comes my wife, she's the boss, she runs everything around here, or the only thing I run at our house is the vacuum cleaner, and just what's the word I'm looking for? Stupid. That's the word I'm looking
Okay.
for. So yeah, just so I would say to men, your role is to be priest, prophet, provider, protector. So as the priest of your home, you want to nurture, help your wife grow, help your children grow. And sometimes it requires really, really hard conversations. Early in our marriage, there'd be times when, and I don't even remember some of the discussions we'd have, but I know we'd be having a really, now again, this is, now we're 40 years married.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, we're trying to figure all this stuff out. And I can remember sometimes we're having conversations and you were crying.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember this?
I remember that just one time.
Well, I don't remember how many times it was.
It was one time.
And I don't remember what we were talking about. But here's what I do remember. I'm putting this together from talking to men. Most of the time when I talk to men and they're in a really hard conversation, their tone's not elevated. Everything's going right. So they're not doing anything wrong. It's just a hard conversation that's emotional and their wife starts crying. Most men I talk to at that point completely shut down.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I don't know. It's like something that, I don't know, they learned in grade school. Hey, if a woman starts crying, I mean, I don't know.
Well, you don't want your wife to cry. However, I mean, she could be triggered by something else. You never know what's going on. You can stop and check in with her. Sweetheart, are you okay? Because we really do need to talk about this. This is important to our relationship. So, so you still have to do it, even if you have to interject a little bit or stop to get the emotions in check. And then continue on. I don't want men, and I encourage men not to back down, because then you are feeling regretful or upset about something. So you're giving off energy that she doesn't want anyway. So you might as well address it.
And let's talk about the two things that we've covered already. We talked about caring. So one, I don't know at what point in our marriage, and maybe it was before we got married, that you believed that I deeply cared for you. I don't know how long that takes. I'm not talking about like boyfriend, girlfriend, the little superficial stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, at some point we came to the understanding, or at least I did, you really care for me. So now that I understand that, when you're sharing something with me, there have been times you've made me cry.
Oh, I don't remember making you
I remember one time you made me cry. Again, I don't remember what it was about.
Uh-huh.
Probably something you said harsh and unkind.
Really?
No, that's not like you. So that probably wasn't what you said. But I don't know, though. Now I think about it. Why would I be crying if it was a harsh?
Exactly. I'm sure I could probably say some things.
So anyway, the point being, once I believe that you do care for me, two things can be true. It's not either or, it's both and. So I want to be caring and I want to be truthful. So back to the man. It's your role, it's your responsibility as the priest of your home to nurture, care for your wife, and help your wife grow in areas where she may need to grow in.
And the role of the wife would be, if he is coming to you, is to be able to listen, to be strong enough to say, okay, and to admit if you're doing something, to say, okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was doing that, or I'm going to do better. Because why wouldn't you want to do better to make the relationship better? That doesn't. If there's a problem, let's address it. And if a woman comes to her man with an issue, then he needs to do the same. He needs to receive it. He needs to be strong enough to, and I know a man's ego can be, quite out there. So, but he needs to be able to receive it just as she receives it. So both of them, that goes back to the real communication is two-way. It's intentional and it's two-way. Two people exchanging what's going on to deal with a problem.
So we talk about hard, uncomfortable conversations, but here's another thing that I would encourage everybody to do with each other: reward the behavior you want repeated. So if you
that sounds like a parenting tip too.
It is a parenting tip. It's a people tip. It's a parenting tip. It's a marriage tip. It's a at work tip, right? Reward the behavior you want repeated. So what we have a tendency to do is when things are going well, we don't say anything because that's what we expect. Why wouldn't things be going well? And we only speak up when things aren't going well. So part of this communicating is I want to communicate, hey, Teresa, let me tell you something you did that I really loved and appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, let me tell you, it's a lot of praise intentionally. You used that word earlier because we know that they're going to be hard conversations, but the amount of praise that I've shared and I've showered on you hopefully shows you that I care.
Mm-hmm.
So now when I come to you with something that's not so praise-like, you receive it better.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Okay, what else you got?
So I want to bring up a few skill sets that will help build real connection in the relationship. For instance, and I'm saying this because I want them to maybe take note. Okay, so active listening. So what does that really mean? So you're listening to understand. A lot of people will listen to respond, right? So we're not trying to do that. We're trying to listen to truly understand that person. You're not just hearing words. You're tuning in the emotion behind the words, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got you. So active listening would mean that as you are speaking, I'm not in my mind preparing my response as much as I am actively listening.
Right. So the next one would be reflective responses. So this is what I hear you say, or this is what I hear you're saying, or what you're saying is this. And then to get clarification, you go back and, repeat what he or she is saying.
Okay, so when I hear you say, talking about reflective responses, it reminds me of something that we used to teach when we would do sessions together or at conferences.
Right.
The whole listen, understand, validate.
Yes,
And
that's
I
exactly
think
right.
If I remember correctly, we got that from a marriage certification course we did with the Smalleys.
Mm-hmm.
So a certified marriage intensive coaching program.
Right.
And I like it. I like acronyms. I like things that help me remember things. So listen, understand, validate, love, LUV, not LOVE. Listen is what you just said.
Right.
It's really intentionally listening, not listening to respond, but listening.
Right.
Then what I think is key, and to me this is a reflective response part, is after I've listened, now I want to move to the you. I want to understand, and often to understand, I may need to repeat back what you said. Hey,
Exactly.
Teresa, I want to make sure I understand. Here's what I heard you say. And then you might go, yeah, that's exactly what I said.
Right.
Or you might go, no, that's not what I said. Or this actually is a real story that happened once with us. So we're practicing this. We're not just teaching this. This is stuff we actually practice. So I'm practicing this with Teresa once. Listen, understand, validate. And this is the challenges about men and women and our differences and how it puts up barriers to communication, right? So Teresa's saying something and I'm listening. She finishes and I repeat, okay, let me just make sure this is what I heard you say. And you said, you remember this?
I do.
You said, that's
No,
not what I said.
That's not what I said.
And then I said, because I was listening really closely, I said, that's exactly what you said, Teresa.
So you responded to the words that I said versus what was really being said.
Then what you said was, which this is where this gets really difficult. You said, okay, you're right. That was what I said, but it wasn't what I meant.
Oh, yes, I did say that. That's correct. That's not what I meant. So I had to go a little bit further so you could understand where I was coming from.
So two things I want to share out of this real life story: the importance of repeating reflective responses, the importance of making sure you understand, because it's one thing, I know what I said, but I don't know what you heard.
Right.
Right.
Right. Because we go back to the different lenses that we've come through or come to understand life through from years, from birth, really, from birth all the way to the present day. You are filtering through, and your experiences are different than my experiences. So therefore, we do need to get on the same page before you can answer or respond to my question.
So one thing the audience needs to understand is when we talk about communication, we talk about listening, is that we come into relationships with baggage.
Yes.
And here's what that means when it comes to communication. I see what you're saying through the lens of my past experiences. I hear what you're saying through the ears of my past experiences. So I know I hear what you're saying, but what I really hear you saying may be something totally different than what you're saying.
Right, because of your experiences. So that's why we've got to get on the same page as it relates to, and that's where the reflective responses come in, and LUV, all that comes in, and that's so valuable. I just really wish people would try it, at least if you want to make that connection or get an understanding of what is being said.
Okay, so now we've listened. We've done the reflective responses, so we've understood LU. And then the V would be when the other party would validate, yes. Of course, in our example, you said no, you didn't validate. You said, no, that's not what I meant. But with this back and forth, you're going to listen.
Right.
You're going to repeat it back to make sure you understood. And then the other person is going to validate. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. So therefore, the communication is really clear.
Right.
LUV, listen, understand, validate.
So we've done active listening. We've done reflective responses. And now we're going to do the nonverbal awareness. Okay. So the body language, eye contact, all of that, the tone of voice, that is so important. All of this it speaks louder than words itself. You know, the nonverbal awareness. You see what I'm saying? If you come to me and you say really harsh something, then like you say, I'm going to shut down. I'm not going to hear what you say. And it's going to be, okay, why is he speaking to me that way? So it's almost like a disrespect or a you don't care enough about me or something like that. So the nonverbal awareness, the language, how you're looking in my eyes. If you were to touch me softly, then I would say, wow, he cares enough about me to really hear what I'm saying, or he needs to say something to me, whatever, make that the communication part.
So whatever you say, nonverbals, touching you shows that I care. We talked about the importance of caring earlier.
Right.
So I'm about to tell you the truth, but I've shown you that I care.
Right.
And now the way I'm going to tell you the truth is going to be in a manner that's soft.
Yeah.
Which soft isn't my natural state when it comes to having frank conversations. I don't try to be harsh.
Right. But you can be if you are elevated in your feelings or whatever, then you're not soft. That's why you have to be careful about that, making sure that you've come down and making sure this is a good time for us to speak, right? We talked about that once before. Is it the right time? Is it the right tone? Or are we in the right place, right turf?
Are you going to talk about that?
Well, you can tell them more about that.
So one of the things about great communication skills are using, and we're talking about nonverbal awareness now. So it's what are some nonverbals? Although your tone is verbal, it's just some things to be mindful of. Are you using the right tone? Is this the right time?
Right.
So in a relationship, oftentimes you have a person who likes to, let's address this right now.
Yes, there is. Yes. Because they want to get it out right now. But sometimes if the right tone is not there, this and it's not the right time, you need to give it a little time, step away from it, and then come back so that you can get you can have the real communication.
Yeah. So I mean, very seldom is there a sense of urgency that this has to be discussed right now. Now, I know that you may prefer it be discussed right now, but now may not be the right time. Things may be elevated. So is it the right time? Are you using the right tone? And then we talk about the right turf, meaning is it the right place? Here's an example of how I tend to be, I'll say, more transparent with communicating. I remember a story when you and I were on the way to church years and years ago. And on the way to church, we had an argument. And you remember this story?
I do.
And I remember one of the things at church, we always sit really close together. We sit really close together everywhere. So, there's no space between us. And I remember we got to church. We were at a new city, new church. We didn't really know a lot of people there. And you leaned over and said, hey, put your arm around me, basically like you normally do, or people are going to think you're mad at me. You remember what I said?
I do.
I am mad at you. Mad at you now. Mad at you when we got here. Maybe mad when we leave. I mean, that's just. I don't like faking it.
Well,
now is that the wrong turf? I don't like if you and I are having a disagreement. I'm not big on walking into somewhere else like we're all buddy. Now,
I guess that's a little fake.
Yeah, I think it's a little fake. Now, I'm not suggesting you air every grievance in public.
Exactly.
But anyway, so that's an example of communicating. And I guess what you would say was the wrong turf.
Well, yeah, I think so. I think it was the wrong thing. It was the wrong place. I mean, I really had kind of let it go. Apparently you hadn't.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a good moment to talk about I statements.
What does that even mean?
Okay. And maybe this is something I learned in my clinical training.
Okay.
It is saying what you truly feel. I feel. And not blaming, not saying always and never. And remember, we've talked about that before. Certain things you just don't say because a lot of times that's not true. You can't say, you always do this or whatever. And also you're being accusatory when you're doing that. I want us to really focus on the I statements to say, I feel unheard when you say certain things. Okay. And,
now I know what you're saying.
Okay, so now.
I didn't know what you were going to say.
Okay.
So, yeah, what you're saying is, and I remember when I guess you first brought this up to me, so it was something that I learned, is because it's one thing to make accusing statements, you never or you always, or when we're trying to communicate, it's one thing to just, hey, I don't want to hear what you're saying. But something that nobody should be able to disagree with is, I feel like this when you do this, because I can't tell you how to feel.
Correct. That's exactly right. And when a person, when a couple, or one of the people in the couple talk about when they say you do this or start to blame. I really would like people to go back and circle back and really focus on them, not trying to focus on the other person, because you can't change the other person, right? We've got to focus on what can I do. And
is that a fact? You can't change the other person? Because I think people feel like that. Oh my gosh, people get married all the time, and you say more so than I do. But I remember when I would be in the counseling room with you, we would say, didn't you see this when you were dating? And they would often say, yes, but I thought either that would change or I could change it.
Right. And the majority of the time, when if you're engaged, you've got this is the person. Marriage is not going to change this person that you've been dating. Does that make sense?
So you said when you're engaged. What about if you're dating? Well, what about if you're not engaged?
Well, if you see dating, in your dating process, you are getting to see the real person.
So
Now, sometimes people can make smaller changes because they never been married and they can make a few changes. But I'm talking about those the personality parts.
okay.
They don't usually change that much from when you're dating to when you get married. So don't go in thinking that you're going to change a person.
So speaking of that, here's another communication tip. Hey, communicate early and often, don't delay, because when people show you who they are, believe them.
Exactly.
So and this was the approach that we took, or certainly I took when we were dating. Hey, we're not married. I mean, what am I afraid of? I mean, I know people would say, I'm afraid that he's going to leave. I'm afraid that she's going to leave. But that's not the approach I would suggest that you take. It certainly wasn't the approach that I took. I had decided after much prayer, years and years of prayer, it was clear to me that this was who I should marry.
Mm-hmm.
So some 40 years ago, it was apparent that this is who I should marry. But I'm not afraid that you're going to leave, because if I see something, hey, see something, say something. Now that doesn't mean I was nitpicking and looking for stuff. But if things were going wrong, I communicated that to you.
Yes, and I hope a couple, if they're dating, that they are doing that. They are being real with each other, and maybe, I don't know. A lot of people put on a face, I know it, but they put on a face because they want to be seen a certain way in this relationship, and they go in it with, it's almost mechanical, like, this is the way I should be, or this is the way I should act, and that's what I'm going to do. But then when you get married, it somewhat changes because life kicks in.
Are you that desperate to get married that you would really bite your tongue, bite your lip while you're dating?
Well, I'm gonna put that on some I'm going to say some men don't want to commit. They just want to kind of play around. And, I've seen couples that's been together for 5 or 6 years or more. And
not together, not married.
No, not married. No, not just dating all this time. And they don't want to make that commitment. And it just causes more problems, I think.
But isn't that all the more reason to be honest in your communication?
Yes.
Wouldn't that make you more honest instead of less honest?
Well, sometimes people don't want to start over. They've been with this person so long. They're just putting up with what they're going to put up with. And
I'm tempted to use my word again.
I know it, because I kind of agree in this case.
Stupid. It doesn't make any sense.
But they do it. They do it because they don't want to start over. It's hard out here. It's what I hear. More so, today with relationships, because so many things have changed. But there's some basic things that don't change.
I see people who won't communicate, won't have honest and open communication while they're dating, but then the minute they're married, they do. So and not in a good way. So basically, while people are dating, they tolerate anything. Then when they're married, they tolerate nothing. It's reverse. It's reverse. So communicate early, communicate often while you're dating, because then you get to see things. So here's a story from our dating relationship. So it's already apparent to me the Lord has sent you to my life. This is the person I'm going to marry. Now, we dated for 4 years. I'm in college one place, you're in college another place. So while we're dating, I'm about to tell the French fry story. Do you remember the French fry story?
I do.
So probably our second or third date, we're at Wendy's, because that's how I roll.
Yeah.
We're at Wendy's. I don't spare any
Where's
expense.
the beef?
I don't spare any expense. Yeah. So
it was a new restaurant.
New Wendy's had just come to town. And I wanted to take you somewhere nice.
You did?
You know what I'm saying? So we went to the Wendy's. Now, I only had enough money. You don't know this. Speaking of communicating, you don't know this. But I only had enough money to buy one meal. So I said to you, what do you want? And you said, I want the meal, the burger, fries, and a drink. So then I knew to myself, well, I can't get the meal, so I'm just going to get the burger. So we got our order. We sit down at the table, and this is early on. date 2 or 3 maybe. And I reached over, we're talking about communicating. I reached over and got a French fry from your plate because I didn't have any fries. And you said, maybe you're trying to be a good communicator. You said, hey, what are you doing? And then I said, because, hey, I'm a good communicator.
Okay.
I said, what do you mean, what am I doing? And you said, why are you getting one of my fries?
Exactly. You didn't order any fries.
Now, this is maybe not the right message to communicate, right? But I'm talking about the importance of communicating. So my response was, hey, I actually bought these fries. We could argue these are my fries. At the very best, they're our fries.
Exactly.
So I think this was an important conversation in our relationship 44 plus years ago, you know, because hey, when people show you who they are, believe them. Is this a woman who won't share? I mean, come on, she won't even share French fries. How are we going to share a bed?
Exactly.
So this was a conversation that we had. You know what I'm saying? That kind of maybe set the tone for our relationship.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologize.
No,
for that.
but I'm talking about.
I was really, like I say, I had this mindset, you know, I don't know what that mindset was.
Maybe you grew up where people didn't share food. So
well, you get what you eat your food that you got. You don't need to.
Is that how you grew up?
Uh-huh.
Okay. So see, this is the thing we're talking about. So I don't know how she grew up. Maybe it was taboo at their table to share off somebody else's plate. I don't know. But I do know how I envision us going forward. And this is the importance of communicating. Now, here's another key moment in our relationship of communicating. So I have gotten a little bit better, but I used to be really militaristic about being on time.
Yes, that's correct.
So I'm not as militaristic as I was. But here's another thing, another early on in our date communication story. So I got to drive all the way over here. We're from like rural Mississippi, right? So I got to drive all the way over here to pick Teresa up. That's 40 minutes. Then we got to go to town. That's 30 minutes to go to the movie or the Wendy's.
Yeah.
Then I got to take her back home. I mean, it's a long ordeal. So I
Isn't
noticed.
that sweet? Wasn't that sweet?
Is it sweet?
Yeah, that you would take that time to deal with me.
So I noticed after a couple of visits, when I would get there, your mom would let me in, and she would say, "Hey, Teresa's getting ready." And so the first couple of times, I don't really know how this works, right? So I'm not saying anything. But about the third visit, back to communicating, this is really bothering me. So what do? Jim, I know what you did. You just didn't say anything, and you just bit your lip.
No.
And now 40 years later, you're still doing the same thing. No, that ain't what I did. So what I said to you on like our third date, hey, Teresa, we need to talk.
Yes, you did.
Hey, you not being ready, being late, this is bothering me.
Yeah, you did. You said that.
This is a problem.
I was so in love that.
Well, and if you were so in love, you'd have been early.
Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know. Like I say, I didn't know it was bothering you. So I'm glad you told me. But from then on, I was on time. Correct.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
So I didn't know it was bothering you. So without communicating with me or to me, I wouldn't have known, and I would have kept doing it, and you would be and you would be upset.
So
it's so very important to communicate.
We both kind of. I'm not so iron fisted. We can't be late. Although I'm aluminum fisted. Well, I'm still pretty. I'm not. I don't.
What I started to do is try to respect that you want to be on time, or you want to be a certain. Leave a certain time. That's why I always say, what time are we leaving? That way I can be on time. Yeah.
So, but I've backed off a little bit. Like the world's going to end if we're late. And then you've gotten better where you're very seldom late. So yes. By communicating, we kind of met
in the middle.
Not in the middle, but because it wasn't like we're late, because that would be in the middle. We're on time, but I guess here's the difference. If it starts at 7, my own time is 6:45.
Okay.
And let's say if your own time might have been 7:05. Now we're maybe there at 6:55. I mean that's kind of, we're still on time.
Yes.
Anyway, We're talking about the importance of communicating, especially when there's an issue.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. All right. So closing out the I statements. Here's a real simple formula. Here it is.
Okay.
So I feel with an emotion right there. Okay. When a situation, because, and then give a reason. What I need is you make the request or your desire.
Okay.
Okay, so you got
I
it?
feel that's the emotion.
No, yeah, whatever. Right there would be an emotion. For instance, I feel anxious. Go ahead.
Oh, okay.
I'll fill it in.
Here's an example. I feel anxious when plans change at the last minute because it throws off my schedule. What I need is a little more notice if possible.
Correct.
So I feel when the situation, fill in the blank situation, because the reason. And then here's what I need from you to help me.
Exactly.
So I don't know how anybody could be offended at that, right? It's not accusatory. It's not personal.
Right.
It's really putting the onus on yourself. Hey, Teresa, I feel this when you do this. Here's what you could do. I would ask you to do better to help me feel different.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And then, I mean, and you can go back and forth with that because maybe he has some statements or she has some statements. Both of you can go back with that. For instance, I get overwhelmed when we argue late at night. Remember, that's not the right time, not the right tone, not the right turf. I feel proud when you take responsibility for your actions.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I need more time together so I can feel connected.
Yes. That's a big one.
I feel hurt when I don't feel included in your plans.
Yes.
Okay. So what do we call, what's your clinical term for this? What are we calling this?
We're just calling it I statements.
I statements. But the whole idea is that it's not accusatory. It's not
It's not blaming.
That's the word. Thank you. Hey, this whole clinical thing is really working out for you.
It really goes to the real core of a person. That's what it does. When you can say, I feel.
So what did you learn? Are you learning clinically as a professional that maybe a layperson like me doesn't understand about communicating? Is this what you're sharing?
That's what I'm sharing.
These are the things?
Yes, these are the communication skill sets that I'm trying to show you and teach others about. Communication is an intentional act. And if you do it well and practice it, it becomes just a natural thing. And then both of you are expected to say, okay, I feel this, I feel that. And, maybe sometimes you feel a little funny about it, but it really truly speaks to the core of what's going on in your mind.
So, Teresa, we're talking about communication skill sets that strengthen connection.
Yes.
All right. So we've done active listening. We've done reflective responses. We've done nonverbal awareness.
Yes.
Okay. We've done using I statements.
Right.
And then the fifth one is, what is it?
Clarification and curiosity. So the last one, number 5, is clarification and curiosity. Asking open-ended questions like, here's one. Can you tell me more about how you see it? That could be an open-ended question. So you're inviting, what do you need from me right now? All of that is the clarification and the curiosity. You're getting to know more about a situation. How are you feeling about that situation? All of those are what do we call open-ended questions.
Do you find that how are you feeling? Because I think of stereotypically or generically speaking, I think of women being more feeling, men being more, I guess, intentional or more. There's emotion on one side and more logic on the other side. Not to say that
they're not enemies, right?
Yeah, they're not enemies, and it's not to say that men are not emotional and women are not logical. But here's where I'm going. When I think about your question, how are you really feeling about that? Do you think men respond well to that question? Because maybe men have been taught to suppress feelings, to not open up about feelings. So if a woman asks her fiance, her husband, her partner in a relationship, and the man, how are you feeling about this? How do you think men respond to that?
Well, I'm going to say probably the first time they probably won't respond well. They'll probably need to take a little time to think it through.
Because we've been taught.
Yes, I don't think you guys deal with feelings as much as we do.
Okay.
You don't allow them to come up. I think that's a part of your ego deal that I don't understand too much about.
Really?
I do. You probably were taught, what do you mean what I feel? I don't know. I don't feel nothing because, you guys can go into that compartmentalizing mindset and you don't feel anything. You just let it be. Because, you remember the mind, how the woman might be thinking, she's thinking all kinds of things. And then the man is thinking, you ask the man, what are you thinking? And he'll say something like, nothing. And he probably isn't because we don't process the same way. I've got a gazillion things going on in my mind and you can compartmentalize yours and you're not thinking like I'm thinking. And that's something to be aware of, but it doesn't mean that you can't. That's why real communication is intentional. You have to, especially for the male, even, and sometimes for the female, because a lot of females now don't deal so much with feelings.
Since we know that men and women are different, we process differently. And since some men may not embrace feelings as well as other men, what do you think about this question instead? So your question was, how are you feeling about that situation?
Right.
All right. So tell me what your thoughts are on this.
Okay.
What do you think about that situation?
I think you could probably process that better. Because, like you say, feelings sometimes bring about a girlish thing or a womanish thing sometimes.
Well, I mean, you'll need to know your spouse. I mean, so maybe over the course of your marriage, over the course of your relationship, like we've done over the course of our 40 years, we learn each other. Well, I guess 44 years because it started when we were dating.
Yeah.
So we learn each other. So as you try it out, ladies, with your husband, how are you feeling? If he doesn't respond well, then you might want to switch up. How are you thinking? Or if you are really open communicators, you can have this conversation about which question better gets to the heart of the answer that you need.
Exactly. And see that by doing that, you are inviting connection. It's going to happen. And that is so important in dealing with just real communication. It really is.
You know what this requires? I don't know if this is one of the things that you want to talk about or you plan on talking about, but you know what I'm seeing that really communication that inspires connection, which is what we're talking about. You know what it really requires? Is this one of your words? Vulnerability.
Okay.
Is that one of the things you got down?
I don't have that down, but that's a good word.
Do you know what I'm saying?
So we've said intentionality and
we talked
vulnerability. I can't say that word.
We've talked about caring. We've talked about being truthful, but being vulnerable is, wow. Now, again, we're making generalizations when I say that men, obviously there are exceptions, but when I say generally speaking, men are not good at being vulnerable because we've been taught, and in many instances, we need to be hard. Now, hard is not calloused. Hard is just, hey, for me to protect my family, this is hard. For me to get up every day and go to work, now it's hard for both of us, but it's, life is just hard. So being vulnerable, what you need to be a great communicator, sometimes is the opposite of what many men have been taught. Like I'll tell you a story about communicating. I just, sometimes these stories just pop in my mind as I reflect back over our stories. So I remember a question you asked me once, and the answer would have been me being really vulnerable, but I didn't say anything.
Okay. What was that question? I
So,
don't remember that.
It was the point when we were about to lose our house.
Oh, yeah.
So we're about to lose our home because our real estate company, the real estate market had crashed. We were about to lose everything. And of course, you and I were communicating, hey, Teresa, here's what's going to happen. We're going to lose our home. And I remember one time you said to me in the midst, because we were communicating a lot, but here's the part about being vulnerable. I remember one time you said to me when we were talking about losing our home, you said, what are we going to do? And
I did say that.
And the answer popped in my head immediately, which was, I don't know. But I didn't say that. I didn't say anything.
Why do you think?
Because, okay, I'll tell you what I was thinking. I know what you're going to say something different, but I'm telling you what I was thinking.
Okay.
You basically, I hate this is a cliche, right? I don't think you can handle the truth.
Okay.
I don't think
few good men. You're gonna go there with me?
I don't think I can say to you, we're about to lose our home and I don't know where we're gonna live. I don't think that's information I need to share right now. Now do you feel, with the benefit of hindsight, I know, yeah, sure, I could have handled it. But at the time, would that have been helpful?
I don't know. I think you probably needed to say, let me ponder on that, or let me think about that, because right now I don't have the best answer.
Okay. So what I should have done, could have done better, which I didn't do.
And that would have put it to some rest.
Yeah, I should have said to you, hey, Teresa, that's a great question. Let me think on that.
Yeah.
But I didn't say that. I didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm. And that leaves you, so you wonder why a woman come back and ask you the same question, right?
Yeah.
Because that's why you didn't close it out. You didn't end it. She needs to, even if it is, let me think about that. That is closing out and giving me a little bit of, but I do expect for you to come back and clarify it.
We've had a lot of things in our life. I mean, we started this real estate investment company. We built it to one of the largest of its kind in the country. Mm-hmm. Then we lost everything. Mm-hmm. We've had a lot of things. We have 4 children. We had a lot of things that require us to communicate. Hey, speaking of children and communication, when I think about being the parents of 4, how that, if you're going to do it well, forces you, well, hopefully you want to do it on your own without being forced, but you need to be really, really great communicators to parent children.
Right.
Think about your job, and sometimes you don't like it when I compare, do you, work and family? You say I'm being too businesslike?
Well, sometimes, yeah. When you told me that time that I needed to make an appointment with you.
Well, what I told you was, when you would say we need to talk, which I welcome those words, by the way. A lot of men have told me,
yeah,
they run from those words. We need to talk. I welcome those words, but all I was telling you is it needs to be the right time. So, right. Hey, Jim, we need to talk. Well, right now may not be a good time to talk.
Correct.
But I promise you, what I said to you, give me a time.
Well, that's not how I took it, but
I
took it like, I need to make an appointment with my husband.
That's what you said. You said, I need to make an appointment with my husband. But all I was saying is, hey, we need to talk. Okay, what about tomorrow at 7?
Okay.
What about anyway? But you think about some things that we do at work, and we have meetings, we have huddles, we have weekly, monthly, biweekly, daily meetings. I think there's a lot you can learn from that you can implement at your home, especially when it comes to parenting.
I agree.
So what we learned as parents, we needed to be great communicators to effectively parent kids. You know when I first learned this?
No, tell me.
I was out working in the garage, and the twins, the oldest, came out and said, hey, Dad, can we go down the road and play at Bobby's house?
Mm-hmm.
Sure you can. So they went down the road. A few minutes later, you came out. Where are the twins? They went down the road to Bobby's house. Hey, they asked me if they could go, and I told them no.
Exactly. I told them no.
And then I was like, oh, I see what they're doing. Mm-hmm. They just came and asked me the same question.
They just played us, didn't they?
So that told me you and I need to be really, really great communicators. And so we developed a whole style and pattern. Let's say if we were about to discipline a child. Mm-hmm. See, this is going to sound like work, right? We would meet, the two of us, before we met with the child.
Mm-hmm. Because we needed to know what we were going to do and present that united front is what we needed to do.
And oftentimes in that meeting,
mm-hmm.
we talk about being intentional, right? I would say, hey, Teresa, here's what I'm going to say. And then after I say this, here's what I want you to say. And it's like a very intentional, scripted approach. Now, it didn't always stay on script. Sometimes it went off script.
That's right.
But the point I'm making is you got to, especially when it comes to parenting, you want to be great communicators.
Right.
All right. So we've shared a lot, we hope, that are helpful, practical, very useful tools that you can take and apply and make your relationship better. So why don't we summarize this episode, Teresa? What would you share in summary?
So here are 3 things I want you to take away from what we've talked about today. Number 1, listening is more important than talking. People want to be heard, not hurried. Okay? All right. Number 2.
Okay.
I'll let you do that one.
Tone and body language speak louder than words. Let me just mull that over. Tone and body language speak louder than words. What people want is emotional safety, not just clarity.
Right.
So that makes sense to me. I'm not sure I understood this until now, to tell you the truth. Yeah. So people want emotional safety, not just clarity. I guess I tend to kind of default, this is an emotionally safe space, so let me just focus on the clarity part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Mm-hmm. Number 3.
And number 3, real communication require, which we said earlier, vulnerability and courage.
Okay, I didn't think about that. What people want is to be known and accepted, flaws and all.
Mm-hmm.
So
that is so important. Accepted, flaws and all.
Wow. So real communication requires vulnerability and courage. Yeah. So that's, and again, speaking to the man for just a second, that's what I see lacking with a lot of men. And I guess I've never thought about it in terms of courage, but yeah, that's just what it amounts to. Having the relationship courage to speak the truth, using all the tools that we've taught you, the right tone, the right time, the right turf, listening to understand, not to reply. Mm-hmm. But yeah, real communication requires vulnerability and courage.
Yeah.
So that's our show. Before we go, we started by talking about the great communicator in Jesus. So if you never said yes to Jesus, or if you need to start again, let this be your moment. Don't try to make this marriage work by yourself. Marriage works best with the divine designer at the center. Mm-hmm. We hope you've learned something that sparks an idea or starts a conversation. Please share this episode with a friend. Subscribe to our podcast and leave a review, and follow us on TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram at Marriage with Jim and Teresa to join the conversation. Thanks so much for spending time with us today. Let's continue to change the way the world does marriage together. See you next week.